So we got a few things to talk about here this week, and particularly after last week's video, I did a little bit of thinking and I thought like, hey, come on, let's do a little bit of research on what kind of rules and regulations are good for the sport, for the SUP sport, or in that matter, for any kind of sport. And of course, what's also good for the sport is if your mouse click finds its way onto that like button or the subscribe button, that would help me out tremendously. And with that being said, yeah, let's think about the sport of SUP and rules and all of that. And I, of course, contacted tour organizers. I'm thinking like, so who is organizing tours? Who should we contact? So I wrote an email to our friends over at the ICF. I wrote an email over to the guys at the Euro Tour, and I wrote an email over to the ISA, and I wrote an email to my friend over at the SUP Alps Trophy. And I asked everybody, says like, do you have any kind of rules or regulations that you guys at least have written down vaguely or more specifically? And the answers were somewhat different. And in some cases, I didn't get an answer at all, or in some cases, the answer was chosen not to be given because we do not want to participate in, frankly, in this kind of conversation. So starting, for example, if you take a big sporting organizations, like, like huge ones worldwide with thousands of members, these organizations, all, number one, they have statutes. They have, in order to be recognized legally as an organization or as a non-profit, you have statutes, and certain countries have different rules. So like in an ICF case, I got 2 documents sent that are each 62 pages deep. And yes, of course, who's gonna read that? Not everybody. And who's gonna memorize it all? Well, definitely not me. But of course, there are some interesting pages, and it is what it does in general. And maybe like, let's just say it. We're amongst each other here. We can say it. It gives an athlete and a organizer a clear path, a clear structure. And after 12 years recording SUP, I still feel our sport lacks a real structure. Yes, we need a real structure. We need a clear path and a clear rules for everybody the same. And that is something that I've been missing. And of course, everybody can make their own rules. So the ICF there, these guys are pretty clear, cut and dry, and there is committees, and there's meetings, and there is subcommittees. And the same thing kind of like over with the Alps Trophy, although that's a very small tour, just a few tour stops across the Alpine region of Europe. And it's a tour where a race organizer is organizing a race, evidently. A race organizer is organizing a race. And the tour kind of comes in and provides a framework along the same kind of situation like with the Euro Tour, actually kind of like the same concept. And on the SUP Alps Trophy there we had, there are rules on there about juries and things. So it's just a guideline, nothing too deep, but it's online and you can look at it. Unfortunately, from the Euro Tour, I did not get info there, and the ISA did also. Unfortunately, they didn't respond to my email, so we don't really know what's going on. But like for you guys out there, and like I'm not an athlete. I mean, like I'm a wannabe athlete, or I'm at least trying to, participate in the sports that I'm talking about. That's important to me. There's got to be some sort of rules and a framework where I can navigate myself through. And frankly, that's what I feel what the SUP sport and its participants, including probably me, have failed doing over the last 12 years. Get together and say, these are the rules that we want. This is the framework that we want, and we want to make this count. We want to make these rules count if we are deciding who is a world champion. We want to make these rules count if we decide who is going to be a national champion. We can then either say, we want to adhere ourselves to the Surfing Association and want them to take those rules into their statutes. So the SUP rules that are being worked out by the SUP people themselves can then be integrated into the statutes of the federation of their choice. In one country it might be the surfing federation, in another country it might be the canoe federation. That's how I see this, that everybody has rules, and when we all meet to go and find out who is the world champion, we have then agreed upon a set of rules, and we have given athletes a path. Then if they're unhappy with something that happens, or they feel somebody is played outside the rules, or there has been something set up that has created a problem, that they have a clear path to move forward, and not a kind of like a free-for-all juggling kind of situation. And that's something that I miss, guys. That's really something that I feel we need to come up with. We need to come up with it fast. We should have come up with it not today. We needed to come up with this yesterday. We needed to come up with this some odd years ago. Why did that fail? I don't know. Everybody too busy. Everybody has got something going on, and I don't know. The business of SUP, of professional SUP racing, is not a very big one. So who knows? Maybe just nobody felt there is a time for it. But we need that, guys. And I'm pleading to everybody, you guys, get yourself together. I can help with my time. If anybody has a question or wants something, I'm always open for suggestions or contacts, or I want to contribute to this. So let's get some rules going that are the same for everybody and keeps everybody a clear path forward. Thank you so much for listening to me, and we'll see you guys in the next one.